welcome to Beat Diabetes Myths and Facts, where we bring medical experts in to talk about how we can cope with chronic lifestyle diseases. Now, while dealing with COVID-19, we overlooked the fact that people's lifestyles were being severely disrupted. Many people have become physically inactive, they've developed irregular eating patterns. That in turn has led to unhealthier lifestyles, thereby aggravating lifestyle-related diseases. The pandemic has seen significant changes to our homes, our workplaces, to our overall stress levels. But we now need a multi-sectoral approach to making our lives better. Healthier diets, increasing physical activity, all of these can help slow down the veritable epidemic we've seen of diabetes and heart diseases. Joining us today, Dr. S. Shivaprakash, MD, DM Endocrinology, AIIMS, New Delhi, endocrinologist in charge of the COVID ward of the Rosemary Hospital in Tirunelveli. Dr. V.K. Shah, MBBS, MD, Med, DM Cardiology, interventional cardiologist with the S.R. Mehta Cardiac Institute and the H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital in Mumbai. And Dr. Naresh Goyal, MBBS, MD, Medicine, DM interventional cardiologist and chairman of the Delhi Heart Institute and Multi-Speciality Hospital, Bhatinda and Moga. Dr. Shivaprakash, let me begin with you. How does COVID-19 affect people with pre-existing diabetes disorders, and after they're cured of infection, what are the complications that these people might have to face?
So when compared to a normal individual, patients with diabetes are a higher risk of hospitalization, at risk of complications, and have a higher risk of death also. Now this is because due to the longer duration of diabetes, or per se because of poor glycemic control. So either of these conditions, raised sugars, can affect in two ways. One is the high sugars can promote viral replication, and also the high sugars can impair our own immunity. So by both of these ways, either the viral pneumonia can progress, or there can be a serious risk of acquiring secondary bacterial infections as well. On the other part, there is also increased risk of clot formation in the blood vessels, like in the lungs, in the heart or brain. And again, many patients with diabetes have coexisting obesity. Now, obesity is known to impair lung function by impairing the reserve during breathing. So these patients are also at high risk of respiratory failure. Now, beyond these complications, when the patient gets discharged post-COVID, I'm coming to the post-COVID scenario, again, the sugars may be too high in a patient who has got a diabetes. So sugar monitoring is essential. Again, the chances of acquiring a secondary infection like a viral pneumonia or a secondary bacterial pneumonia or formation of clots in the blood vessels is high. Again, there is an entity known as post-COVID syndrome, where beyond 4 weeks, patient can actually have mild symptoms like persistent loss of smell, loss of taste, or can have intermittent dry cough or breathlessness, or even intermittent palpitations, which we have seen in a few number of patients.
Right. Dr. V.K. Shah, atrial fibrillation seems to be a common clinical manifestation in patients who are hospitalized with COVID-19. Can this continue after the person recovers from the infection as well?
Atrial fibrillation is a very common manifestation of all the patients who are admitted for cardiac illnesses, particularly in COVID-19. Almost 15 to 20% of the patients suffering from COVID-19 have atrial fibrillation as one of the entity. Some of the literature has reported also about 40 to 50% of these patients suffering from atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation, if not present previously, can be precipitated by COVID-19 infection, because this infection liberates a lot of, it's an inflammatory disease which liberates inflammatory markers, toxins, and cytokines which can affect the heart, producing cardiomyopathies or coronary artery thrombosis, leading to enlargement of the heart and producing atrial fibrillation. This atrial fibrillation in a small percentage of patients, even after the COVID-19 is treated, can persist till the cardiac enlargement and the toxemia subsides. And therefore, many of these patients may require anticoagulants, NOACs, to be continued to prevent future events of cardiac thrombosis as well as cerebrovascular accidents which may arise because of persistent atrial fibrillation.
Dr. Naresh Kumar Goyal, a person who's undergone a stent implantation and has just been cured of COVID infection, what are the chances of that person getting a heart attack again?
I just wanted to say people who undergo coronary angioplasty with stenting. Normally, if we see chances of getting acute heart attack after angioplasty is less than 1% in recent 6 months time, and it is less than 2% in coming years. So if we see in these scenarios, we already are having very tough time. We are facing day-to-day problems like infectious diseases like COVID, which is basically a prothrombotic state. People who already suffered COVID infections, they have high chances of having stent thrombosis during that illness. But once they are cured of COVID infections, then chances of getting stent thrombosis are relatively low. So, being a prothrombotic state, we have to be careful. People, particularly those who underwent 2 coronary angioplasties, double angioplasty, double stents, triple stenting, those patients must be not stop their antiplatelet drugs or antithrombotic drugs without advice of doctors.
This question is for Dr. Shiva Prakash. Though the awareness about metabolic disorders is now increasing, people still perhaps don't know what the exact warning signs are, which would require screening for diabetes. If you could just take us through the common symptoms, and should diabetes testing happen even without symptoms, and should it be mandatory after a certain age? Dr. Shiva Prakash.
Yeah, I'll say it into 3 parts. The presentation can be presentation like common presentation is weight loss or excessive thirst, excessive urination, or voracious appetite. And again, there can be fatigue, non-specific symptoms like fatigue or blurring of vision. And some infections can occur, like infection of the private parts in males and in men and women. And also there can be erectile dysfunction in men, which can be the first symptom of diabetes mellitus. The second part is patients can present with complications like a heart disease or a kidney involvement. The diabetes would have been silent for years. So it can present directly with complications if no testing is done. Third, patient may be completely asymptomatic. They may not have any symptoms with any high sugars. So it is imperative to test. Now generally we do testing beyond 25 years of age. The guidelines say 30 years, but even at as young as age of 25 years, there is an increasing prevalence of obesity. So generally we do screening for patients who are more than 25 years of age.
Dr. V.K. Shah, in recent weeks and months, there have been several cases where young and extremely fit people have passed away, and the reason has been a heart attack or a cardiac arrest. Is a sudden cardiac arrest the same thing as a heart attack, or is there a distinction between the two?
So, cardiac arrest and cardiac heart attack are 2 different entities. Cardiac arrest means cessation of the heartbeats, and therefore the entire circulation stops and the patient is declared dead, and this can occur because of various reasons which ultimately leads to this problem, and most common among them is arrhythmias. Whereas heart attack means sudden or gradual stoppage of the blood supply through the coronary artery, which is supplying the blood to the cardiac muscle, which leads to the death of the muscle and therefore leads to a massive heart attack and therefore the death of the tissue of the muscle. Both the entities are different, and the treatment of these both entities will be different. Cardiac heart attack or a heart attack can be salvaged, and if treated promptly, you can avoid cardiac arrest, because cardiac arrest is eventually a sequelae of all these diseases. So if you treat the heart attack properly, then most of the muscles can be saved, patient can remain alive, and their cardiac arrest will not occur. However, in few percentage of patients, if not treated properly after a heart attack, can lead to cardiac arrest in this patient because they are not treated well.
It's time for a very quick break on the show. When we come back, we'll talk in greater detail about cardiac arrests and resuscitations. We'll have a lot more coming up in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Beat Diabetes, Myths and Facts. Dr. Naresh Kumar Goyal, who survives a sudden cardiac arrest, and after resuscitation, will the survivor be able to resume a normal life, or can there be further complications?
I will say that sudden cardiac arrest, people are lucky if they have this kind of problem if they are staying in hospital, if they are in hospital. See, we have two type of people who get either out of hospital cardiac arrest or within hospital during admission cardiac arrest. People who have, cardiac arrest in hospital, if they are appropriately treated, like done CPR in time and defibrillator, ventilated, whatever we call it CPR, if it is done properly, we can save those kind of patients. We should try to educate more and more people how to do CPR. We call it cardiopulmonary resuscitation. We have seen even doing a regular, just giving a compression to the chest can improve the outcome. When we compress the heart, we supply the blood to the vital organs of the patients, and that's how you can save some of the lives. So coming to second part, that patients can resume normal life or not. It will depend upon underlying disease. Suppose patient is having underlying cardiac disease, suppose he has heart attack, though we have to do angioplasty or bypass surgery, and then after treating that what has causes cardiac arrest, positive thing, then we can always, they can return to normal life. If what people have seen, even in best countries, in advanced countries, for 20 to 30% people can attain a normal life, those who survive the sudden cardiac arrest. Then many patients are left with, as you asked, that what kind of complication they had. Some people end up in neurological complications, like some people have stroke, some people have cognitive disorder, some people have seizure, myoclonus, spasticity, and people who have cardiac complications have valvular incompetence, dyspnea, breathlessness. All those complications are there. So it is a problem not only for hospital but even attendants also, how to handle these kind of people. India is still developing country. We don't have those kind of facilities which are available in advanced countries like USA. So people who survive cardiac arrest, they have multiple complications. So we have to address one by one, and it is a lot of psychological trauma, not only for patient but also for the patient attendant also, family also. Many family members, those who develop permanent memory loss, they suffer a lot.
Dr. Shiva Prakash, are targeted glucose levels for diabetes management different for different age groups? By that I mean the levels that people need to achieve. Does the presence of diabetes complications and other comorbid conditions affect these target levels?
Yeah, I would answer it in a different way. We can say specialized scenario, especially an elderly, the glycemic targets are quite different. For a pediatric age group, it's slightly different. For a pregnant lady, we have to give strict glycemic control. Now, the need to target glucose is balanced with the presence of the comorbid complications that the patient may have. Suppose, let's say, take a patient with chronic kidney disease, with diabetes, with cardiac failure. Now, these patients are much more vulnerable to developing hypoglycemia. So the strategy is to have a good glycemic control, yet avoid low sugar, because low sugar can also cause devastating complication to the patient. So the glycemic control for a patient is individualized, taking care of his age, his comorbid condition or any complications, as well as an elderly, where the patient might need a supportive care from a family member. And it also depends on the socioeconomic status of the patient, as well as the motivation of the patient, and also the neurocognitive decline which happens with diabetes. So all factors have to be taken into account before individualizing management and setting a target value.
Dr. B.K. Shah, does aspirin actually help to reduce heart attacks and strokes? Is it safe really to take low-dose aspirin in order to prevent heart attacks in people who have a risk factor for heart disease?
Earlier on, we used to believe that aspirin will prevent heart attacks and cardiovascular cerebrovascular accidents as a primary treatment. But many studies have shown that aspirin, when taken for primary treatment, cannot prevent this. So nowadays, we don't suggest patients to take aspirin, that small dose, just to prevent a heart attack or a stroke. However, aspirin can be given as an antiplatelet agent for a secondary prevention, which means that if a patient has already manifested with heart attack or a stroke or peripheral vascular disease, where there is a manifestation of atherosclerosis in the arteries of the patient, in those patients, aspirin can be given in the dose of minimum of 75 milligram to 325 milligram as a secondary prevention to prevent many of these episodes of further heart attack and further strokes and decrease in the peripheral vascular disease. So aspirin should not be given normally without any reasons.
Dr. Naresh Goyal, chest discomfort is obviously the most common symptom of a heart attack, and which can be life-threatening, but actually this can also sometimes be a sign of heartburn, which has nothing to do with the heart. How do people differentiate between the two? Is there a way of knowing when you need to sort of press the panic buttons, as it were?
Ankita, you have asked very important questions. What is relevant to each and every individual in this country, even to common laymen also. This is what happens. We face day and night this problem. We have lost many doctors also who thought that it is just a gastric problem, but they suffered a heart attack. And many people who have these problems, they keep moving, eating some kind of anti-acids or all. So what I suggest is, when someone is having heartburn is a symptom of gastroesophageal reflux disease. It is a painful burning. It is mostly localized to particular area. Patient will normally pinpoint. The moment he takes antacids or some cold food, normally it subsides. But whereas heart attack is with totally different kind of feeling. Different people say it is a sort of discomfort. Some people say it is like a heaviness in the chest, tightness in the chest. Some people say it is like a mountain lying on the chest. This is how, we face day and night these kind of problems. Normally, these kind of heart attack patients have pain which is radiating either to arm or jaw, neck, or sometimes even to right side. And it will be usually associated with some kind of symptoms like cold sweating. Patient will look pale. He will feel weak. Some people will even feel breathlessness also. So if someone is having these kind of associated symptoms along with classical retrosternal discomfort, then we should always think that we should immediately consult our physician and get done ECG and rule out whether it is a heart problem or it is a heartburn.
That's it then on this edition of Beat Diabetes. Thanks for watching. We hope it's been useful.